Well, hey guys, I wanted to take just a quick second here. I don't know if this will fall under the category of tips and tricks or not, but you know, we see this question so many times, and I've actually addressed it buried down deep in a lot of my other videos. And I want to take a second and just go over just this concept for you guys. Here's what I'm doing. I'm in the process of building another 40-foot Dynaglide pull-down rope, right? And you guys have seen, I've got a video on how to do this. I like to splice my carabiner on the end of it, okay? And I didn't even intend to shoot a video tonight. I came in here into the archery room. I was sitting here doing this. I've already made a Brummel lock where I've passed one end through and then another end through. And I got to this point and it just kind of hit me about all the questions that people ask all the time on the forums and on the boards, everything about their bridge, and they see a tuft of fabric sticking out of the middle of the bridge. They're like, oh my God, is my bridge going to break? Should I get down right now? Am I going to die? You know, I mean, literally that's about the extent of it, and I get it, right? I mean, we don't mean to laugh and make fun. If I didn't understand what was going on and it looks like a rope is about to pop and break, yeah, and you know, you're leaning backwards from a tree, and that's the only thing that's supporting you, and you're, you know, that's your connection, right? I understand the trepidation and the apprehensiveness of it, but let's calm your fears and allay your fears and concerns there a little bit and show you exactly what's going on. So I mentioned I have done a Brummel lock. This is how Amsteel or Dynaglide or any hollow core rope, meaning that the rope isn't thick. It isn't a solid core rope. It's hollow, meaning there's air in the middle of it. It's basically a sheath with nothing in the middle of it. That's what allows us as DIYers and all of us saddle aficionados and enthusiasts to take a hollow core rope and do all the things we do with it, right? And so what I've done is literally I passed this tag in through the middle of the rope, and then I took this rope and passed it back through the tag end. They actually crisscross. That forms what we call a locked Brummel there. And after that, we have a tag end sticking out. Now, those of us who like neat, tapered buries, and I know I've got a southern accent, right? I grew up in the southern part of Missouri. Bury, B-U-R-Y, bury. We're going to bury this tag end right down the middle of this rope. That's what a bury is, okay? Those of us who like a neat, clean, tapered bury where it disappears in itself, what we do is a lot of times we'll take this and we will separate the strands or the fibers. A lot of ropes are 12 fiber, 16 fiber strands. I don't necessarily count them, but what I will do is I will separate all the strands, and then I will literally take scissors and cut out one or two of the strands on one side. Then I'll separate. Literally, I cut some of the strands away, and I will separate, and I will remove about half the strands that were in that rope. What that's going to do is when I bury this tag end in itself, okay, it will taper down real nice and neat. Okay, so that's one thing. A lot of times when you see that big tuft on a bridge, Hawk is notorious for it. I don't think they taper or separate any strands. They don't remove any strands because you see this huge big ball there that's kind of sticking out on the side of the bridge, right? That's because they didn't taper it. They didn't remove any strands, because you'll see at the end, if you taper this bury down, it shouldn't be a huge big ball there. So that tells me, it lets me know they're probably not taking the time to remove some strands so that the bury tapers. So that's number one. Number two, and secondly, is what I'm going to do is I'm going to lay this down tight, and when I bury this tag end in there, you can see it's going to end about where my fingers are pinching, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go a little bit farther, and that's where I'm going to insert my wire, my fid, whatever tool you choose to use. That's where I'm going to balloon out this hollow core rope And I'm going to insert what I use when I splice the Dynaglide. I use 14 gauge wire doubled over. But I'm going to start and balloon out there and then just insert my wire into the middle of the core of that hollow core rope. And then I'm going to work my wire all the way back up and grab it right where that tag end starts, directly as close to as I can to that locked brummel. Okay, so I'm not going to do it right now. I'll do it here in a second, but I'm going to shove this wire all the way up through there, and I'm going to come out. This wire is going to come out right there as close to this locked brummel as I can. Okay, then what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab this tag end and pull it all the way down through itself. We'll give you a close-up of that, and it's going to hide inside this hollow core. This tag end will actually go inside of it and get buried inside it. Okay, at the very end, my goal is so that that tuft, those tuft of feathers or strands, go in and end or terminate before where I'm going to start this, inserting this wire. What you'll see a lot of times is guys, and why you see it on the bridge, is guys don't start, or factories or whoever it is that's doing the bury on these bridges, they don't start far enough down underneath this tag end. They start too close, and then, and a lot of times we will lose some, just the nature of it, we'll lose some length on this. That's why I like to start down quite a bit, but I'm going to show you that. What you see sticking up is that, the end of those strands, like that. That's why you'll see a lot of people say just cut them off, burn them, whatever. But that little tuft isn't giving you any load bearing capacity, any life-saving ability. It's just a tuft that lasts a little bit of those strands. We're going to give you a close-up. We're going to show you how that works here. But I wanted to show you that's what you're seeing on these bridges. Okay, so let's pull it in. Let's bury this tuft, and at the very end, I'm going to show you what you're seeing, so that you don't freak out, and you'll understand the strength comes from its locked brummel and the bury itself. If you're just seeing the last little bit of those fibers, it's completely fine and okay. You can just trim them off, whatever. We'll show you that here in a little bit. But as I was building a backup Dynaglide rappel rope, so I can just store it, I mean literally I can wind it around here. It's going to be smaller than half of my hand. I thought it would be great to have a backup pull down rope. And as I was building, I'm like, you know what, it'd be a good time to show people what's happening on the bridge, because it's the exact same process. You're burying the bridge just like you're doing this on an Amsteel. In this case it's Dynaglide, but it's the exact same thing as on an Amsteel bridge. So let's give you a close-up of this, of the process of burying a tag end, so you'll understand what we're talking about when people say, oh, it's just the bury, don't worry about it. Let's give you a close-up. Okay guys, so like I mentioned, here is the tag end. This is what was left after I did the locked brummel. I'm going to pull it down, find where it stops. I'm going to go down just a little bit more, and then I'm going to balloon out this Dynaglide. And it's the same exact process you would use with Amsteel. This is exactly how your Amsteel bridge is made. Now whether someone has got a better tool than us DIYers, or they're paying somebody that's really good at doing this, I'm not exactly sure. But what I'm going to do is insert, you're seeing I'm working this wire up, and I want to make sure it doesn't come out the back end. I'm keeping this wire directly in the middle of this hollow core, right? And so what I've got to do is slide it down. I have to keep watching and making sure that I don't come out the back end. I'll slide it down, and I'm just working this wire right down the middle of this Dynaglide. And I'm just working closer and closer, and my goal is I want this wire to poke through or peek out right at that locked brummel. Because the closer I get this wire to come out right there where I passed this tag end back through itself, the cleaner this splice will look. You can see I've just worked it all the way down through the middle of this. That wire, that 2 double folded over wire, is just right down the middle of it. And you've watched this in real time. This is no fancy edits or anything. It doesn't take very long at all. Okay, so I just poked it through right there at the very end, really close to that locked Brummel. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my fingers and separate this, and this is why I use this little wire here, this 14 gauge wire, and I'm going to insert this tag end where I thinned out those fibers. I'm going to insert it in the middle of those double strands, and then all I'm going to do is I am working this wire back. I'm pulling this wire back through itself. And you'll see that tag end disappear there. And all I'm going to do is kind of milk it just a little bit. I'm pulling very gently, pulling through until that tag end comes out. Now, looky here, guys. Now I haven't milked this yet. I'm just going to start milking this core down over itself. And let me stop right there. Make sure I go. I'm self-filming tonight, so I got to work with it backwards. Does that look like what you see everybody and their brother ask? Oh my God, what's going on with my bridge, right? If you can tell, that's the tag end. That's the very end of that tag before, as we buried it, and it's still poking through. Now, because I started so far below, because I pulled it tight and started below, I should be able just to take this and keep milking it down, right? And you should see that tag end disappear. See how clean and tapered that looks? That's because I started where I ballooned out this rope and inserted my tool. I started well below the tag end. If I hadn't of, you'd still see that tag end sticking out. But hopefully that helps explain, guys. As I splice this little small carabiner on, this is a 3 kilonewton Rock Exotica. This is the kind I use for my Dynaglide pull down ropes. But you see, we've got a nice tapered bury all the way through. But if for some reason I hadn't started it low enough, you would see that tag end sticking out, just like I did before it disappeared, before I milked it all the way down. So hopefully those concepts, guys, help you out a ton. Sorry about the, again, self-filming here tonight, but hopefully that helps you a ton in the concepts that we're working with tag ends, with buries, with lock brummels, with tapering, all that, to give you some peace of mind that when you see something like that on your bridge, I'm not saying you don't need to inspect it, right? Please don't misinterpret what I'm saying. Always, always inspect your equipment, right? It's your life you're dealing with, okay? Inspect your equipment. But if it's just a little tuft and it's on an Amsteel bridge or an Amsteel rope or something like that, chances are that's probably what you're dealing with. So hopefully that helps you guys. We'll see you next time around.